Good evening. It's Tuesday, April 26th at 6. I'm calling meeting 1825 of the East Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission to order. This is a meeting that is being held both in person and virtually, so we have people in the room and on Zoom. We have a quorum with all of our members present. Under added agenda items, do we have anything we need to add? We have an item of correspondence to take up under correspondence. That's it. Okay. So for legal notices, we have one legal notice. It ran in the Journal Inquirer on April 15th and 18th. The legal notice states the East Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 26th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. This will be a virtual meeting. Details regarding how to attend will be published on the commission's agenda and will be made available on the town's website. The topic is PZ 2022-4. It's an application for a special use permit. The applicant is Mario Costa, requesting to establish a dog kennel at 18 Griffin Road in Broadbrook, map 19, block 72, lot 8, zone is A1. A full copy of the application is available on the Planning and Zoning Commission's webpage of the town website. All interested persons may attend this meeting and provide verbal or written comments to the board regarding this application. Under public participation, is there anyone here who would like to speak to something that is not on the agenda tonight? Anyone in the room? Anybody online who's joining us? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to receipt of applications. We have I'm sorry, approval of minutes. We have the minutes from regular meeting 1824, which was held April 12th, 2022. Is there anybody who has any concerns or things they think we should change on this? Okay. Hearing none. If people are satisfied, a motion to approve those minutes would be in order.
I'll make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes of regular meeting 1824 held on April 12th, 2022 as presented.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Peg. Receipt of applications. Do we have anything? No. No. Okay. Performance bonds, actions, permit extensions, road acceptance. Anything under that? Okay. Then we will continue the public hearing on PZ 2022-1, 44 Prospect Hill Road, modification to the general development plan. It's the Walmart property, and the applicant is Susan Dorschlag. Yeah. And can you see the names of the people who are online? Get the spelling. You need Peg to spell her last name for you. Yeah. Peg, you need Deanna to spell her last name.
I'm present. I'm Diana Stillquist with WD Partners, and I spoke to the Planning Commission at the last meeting. We also have Greg DeBona. He is the civil engineer for this project. He's also online. And Chris Lapointe, he was also in attendance at the last meeting, and he works for WD Partners also.
Great. Do you want to, we have a new set of drawings. Would you like to walk us through them?
Sure.
Deanna, are you going to share your screen?
I can share my screen. I sure can. I have the site plan brought up here.
Just co-host, which should pop up some. You can see it.
Can you see it? Okay, great. Okay, so this is our revised site plan after the comments from the last public meeting that we had. Your concerns about the safety for people driving through the area around the addition for the grocery store pickup. And one of the things we talked about was maybe putting in some bumps or some kind of traffic calming devices. Well, what our civil engineer has come up with is actually changing that area where you come in off of Newberry Road to a one-way exit from the parking lot. So you can still come off Newberry Road off the secondary entrance over here, but you can only exit from behind the store back to Newberry Road. So they've changed how the parking is angled now and added some crosswalks and some, what is this called here?
Yeah, so
A ramp.
right. The ramp is there as well, just to access the crosswalk to get to those angled spaces even easier for the associates. There is a stop bar and a do not enter bar at the end of the drive lane, so that for folks that are used to coming in from the rear of Dewberry to get around to the front of the store, that will no longer be the cut through. We did explore various options with Walmart. They like this one the most. They feel like this is going to work the best for the operation and provide the most safety options for their associates who do work actively in these areas, loading the vehicles that come for their pickup product. So they were happy with the suggestion. The majority of that side parking field will still be two-way operation as shown. It would only be limiting the one-way direction as you get directly adjacent to where the new building expansion will be. And it's worth noting that because we changed the angle parking spaces, we actually adjusted the pickup spots a little bit further down into the parking field, which meant we lost one more space. And to make it up, we added an additional parking space that we've designated for employee spaces along that rear driveway. So previously along the rear there was 14 spots. Now it says 15, and those have been called out as the employee parking spaces with employee striping. And the rest of that area for the pickup is pretty much the same as it was. We just altered the kind of the traffic calming or more like the traffic restricting area on the bottom right hand corner. And really this change just got carried over through the rest of the plan sets. The blow up site plan shows it in more detail, but really this overall plan I think does it justice in terms of just seeing how it relates to the overall site and what it would do to the access in the back. Obviously, if anybody comes in and out through Dewberry, you still have full access around the building. That hasn't changed. So we still have two-way travel behind the building for truck entering and exit and loading.
we've read the staff memo and we have no problems with any of the conditions that have been placed on there, so. If you have any other issues that you'd like to discuss, we'd be happy to talk about them.
Okay, first question. So let's call it the eastern entrance, the one that's almost in line with your loading dock.
Yep.
Is the entire entrance going to be one way or just the aisle going to the grocery pickup area, exit only at that?
That's right. Just the entrance only. So
Just there, so so tractor trailer traffic will still be able to pull in there.
that's right. No changes to the actual access point on Dewberry Road. That's still going to be two-way. That's still going to be the primary source of travel for the tractor trailers.
But are they gonna have to back in from the street then? Or how, you don't have enough room for them to turn around in there?
Well, so if we zoom out actually a little bit further, I think they come in from, the truck route comes in from the other side. So assuming they come in, and they have the ability up top there to still do their loop. So if they have to turn around and spin, they weren't using, they're not supposed to be using that two-way travel for any sort of truck movements anyway, along where the side of the building is.
The dock that's by your new employee parking area there.
That's still going to be used. Yeah, that's still going to be used.
So how are they gonna get onto that dock? They're gonna have to drive around the building and then back up into there? Because currently they enter in from Newberry Road in that entrance, pull into where the grocery parking area is in, and then they back up to the docks.
Yeah, so if they're coming in off of Dewberry, what they're actually supposed to be doing is driving past the dock, using the truck spin at the northern corner, the upper north corner, and coming back so that they're facing Dewberry, and then they back into the loading space.
Up at the very top.
Where all the containers are, way up in the top. See the row.
That's right.
Okay. So now everybody using the grocery pickup, they're gonna have to come from the west and drive in eastward into that.
That's correct. We want them to come in either from the second access point off of Dewberry, or coming in from Prospect Hill Road, that entrance, and getting around the front corner of the building.
So currently, the spaces up against the building, I mean, they're straight on spaces. And traditionally, people like to back up to that area because most people load either through a hatch of an SUV or back seat or trunk, something to that effect. So predominantly, everybody backs up to the building where there's the curb there.
Facing the wrong way.
The angle, correct, if somebody's coming in from the west heading east, the angle of the spaces are in the wrong direction for somebody to back into those spaces.
Correct.
Yeah, no, these are, yeah, the angled spots are intended for head-on parking, not backing in.
But your customers are gonna back up to the curb. I mean, the ones that are closest to Newberry, it'll be a head-in park because they have no option. Nobody can come around that way. But what you've established for so many years now, where people come out and they walk right along that curb against the building, everybody's accustomed to backing up towards the building to get loaded.
Yeah, they have to be facing the other way.
And it's better for your employees
That was
too.
signage to make sure that people know that, it is one way now,
Yeah.
and the process has changed a little bit.
I mean, it's better for your employees that they don't have to be out standing in the drive aisle, if people are backed up against that sidewalk as well.
Right.
I mean, you just change the angle striping to the opposite angle, then you'll accommodate that.
Well, I guess all I can tell you is that, I mean, this layout, this orientation, these standards we're basically following Walmart's template, and it was reviewed by Walmart's design managers. It's how they're having us basically change all our sites right now for head-on parking. So that is the intent, is for the customers to pull in forward. And it does mean that loading does take place in the driveway area.
And then the raised curb for the walkway, how high is that gonna be raised up?
So the walkway itself, that crosswalk you see striped is actually flush at grade. We're not doing a speed bump or anything. That's not intended to be raised. The ramp is a traditional 6-inch curb ramp to get back up to the sidewalk grade. But that's just a traditional striped crosswalk, flush on pavement there.
Okay, because my understanding was that it was supposed to be a speed limiting device.
We are not proposing that. We do not want to put in the hump in the middle. That's actually going to be a little bit more challenging from an operational standpoint to be moving the carts and stuff over the hump. The belief here is that the traffic calming is really already set up in the way that right now we understand that the bypass or the folks that are cutting through the center are coming from the back and kind of racing to get to the front of the store, not the opposite way around. So the thought is that it's already going to be by turning it into one way, it's going to significantly slow down any of the activity in this rear corner.
You mentioned the stop bar. Can you go into detail, explain what I couldn't really see it on the print? It's kind of small, what that is and how that works.
Yeah, so when I say stop bar, it's basically a painted pavement marking that just has the word stop
Okay,
and has the word do not enter on the opposite side. And it's a thick painted stripe across the whole ground.
okay. And also entering that area, there can be kind of signage that says some like grocery store pickup only before you enter that area, so stop people from cutting through, going out to.
So we actually don't have that sign on the plan, but we could definitely put a sign up that says area reserved for online pickup, parking only, so people don't drive down there confusingly and think it's for anybody to park.
That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Might have been answered.
I'm good.
Anyone in the room who would like to comment on this? Anybody online who would like to comment? Okay, can we see the rest of online? In case there's somebody wanting to comment. I'm sure it's good. Okay. Is there anybody online who wants to comment? Okay. If the comments are done, does somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing for application PZ 2022-01 for amendment to the general development plan of 44 Prospect Hill Road, the Walmart building extension and modification for site to create an online order pickup area.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please indicate.
Aye.
Okay, Peg, that's unanimous. So the public hearing on this application is closed. We have a memo from Ruth Ann and Mike on this. Do you have any questions for Mike or Ruth Ann? Their recommendation, I think, is a motion to approve with 17 conditions.
I like that condition for grocery store pickup coming,
Signage.
coming in. And also I have one more question. Do you guys see a problem with queuing coming in that main entrance now? So we got rid of the other entrance coming in or coming out? the side entrance on Newbury, the big entrance.
You're talking about just the overall circulation for the base of the
Yeah.
Walmart now?
Yeah, 'cause we shut down that little side truck entrance. You guys see a problem with queuing, backing up, coming in or out of that? Everybody's gonna be coming out of that side now.
Yeah, I don't think of it really as can be too much of a problem. I think on actually a lot of our Walmart sites, we usually only have one side entry to a parking lot and not have that ability to have it cut through. So, you know, I think that because we have the access on multiple points to the center, it's going to allow traffic flow to kind of mitigate. There will be a number of people that probably have to kind of relearn that entrance for sure, because if they're used to coming in, let's call it the back way, that won't be there unless they want to take the travel route all the way around the back of the building to come in on the other side. But again, we're not expecting it to be traffic generating any problems.
No, I think your concern was, is the traffic going to back up
Yeah.
up to Route 5?
Well, no, in the park, yeah, well, going in might be okay with back and coming out. Cause everybody has to come out that way. And sometimes when, well, it's just, when Lincoln Tech gets out, it's you're stuck. Not my concern. And that's usually like 12:30. Wherever they get out. So I don't think it backs that far up though.
We do have sufficient lighting for the rear parking. We did determine that last time. Okay.
So the hearing is closed, so at this point,
Yeah.
I think if there's conditions we want to add, then we should discuss those amongst ourselves. We have the one with the signage saying that it's not a pass-through driveway anymore, it's order pickup only. Is there another condition that somebody would want to add? There is no further discussion.
All right,
A
so
motion.
Diane,
Yes, sir.
so the added condition 18 that we're going to add is signage will be added to designate online order pickup only to deter pass-through traffic.
That's fine.
In
There's
agreement
no
with that?
problem with that. There's no problem with that.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve application PZ 2022-01, amendment to the general development plan of 44 Prospect Hill Road, the Walmart building for expansion and modification of site to create online pickup area. This approval is granted subject to the conformance with the reference plans as may be modified by the commission and this approval and the following conditions or modifications. And they are conditions 1 and 2 under reference plans, and then conditions which must be met prior to signing of Mylars are 1 through 17, and adding a 18 saying signage will be added to designate online order pickup only to deter pass-through traffic. This is in accordance with a memo from Ruth Ann Calabrese, our town planner, which was revised on April 21st, 2022.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second discussion. I'll state for the record that through this iterative process, I think we've gotten a safer site plan and a way to deter the trucks from parking and idling in that pickup area because it's no longer two-way and it's got improved signage. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Kate, that's unanimous. It's approved.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration. I really appreciate it.
Our next order of business is a new public hearing on PZ 2022-4, 18 Griffin Road. It's for a special use permit to establish a private dog kennel. The applicant is Mario Costa. Is somebody here for the applicant? Would you like to explain and talk about your application?
You want to talk for him? Yes, yeah.
Sure.
So.
Could you identify yourself,
Yeah,
please?
Eric Troy, I work for his son, Mario Costa.
Peg, did you get the name?
She signed it.
I'm sorry.
We have it written down.
Okay, you have the spelling. Okay, great. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So he has, four dogs now, and he likes hunting. He goes hunting with his son and with his grandkids. And he wants to be able to have more than 3 dogs in his property. So he needs a special use permit for that kennel. And that's what he applied for. He has already a kennel in place. It's been built a long time ago. It's been approved by the zoning, I believe, when the house was built. And he just wants that permit so he can be able to have more than 3 dogs for hunting.
Anyone from the commission have questions?
So your intent is not to board any other dogs from the public at all?
No.
Strictly all of them his own private owned dogs?
Could I ask how close the kennel is to the neighbor's house?
So it's his house, the kennel, and it's this lot that he owns with his wife, and it's the neighbor on the other side. So it's,
A good distance?
yeah.
Any complaints from there?
I've not heard any directly, but we did reach out to animal control. And Officer Curtis has consulted with us on this matter. She's here tonight. Fill in some detail for us if necessary. But Mike actually had plenty of conversation with her last week while I was away. From my brief conversation with Officer Curtis, there's more than 4 dogs on the property presently. Maybe we could talk to that a little bit. And also there's a state requirement, 3 or more dogs over 6 months, there's a need for a commercial kennel license.
I can correct that as well. It's any age according to the state. So it doesn't matter if they're weeks old, months old, it is any dog on your property. It does not matter what age.
So if you have 3 dogs, you have to get a
If
state
you have
license?
more than 3
Oh,
dogs.
more than 3.
Yep, you have to carry a commercial kennel license.
So anybody's dog that has a litter of more than 3 puppies is required a commercial license?
If you're gonna be keeping any of them, if you're over the number of 3,
For what length of period of time? Because they keep them until they're
8
weaned.
weeks old.
8 weeks old.
Yeah.
Yep, anything over the age of 8 weeks old, if you're gonna keep them on property, you need to carry it. If you have more than 2 litters a year, it doesn't matter however many dogs have the litters, more than 2 litters on your property a year, you also have to carry a breeder's license.
So is that commercial license hard to obtain?
No, it's just a simple commercial license through the town clerk. It's no
Okay.
different than just licensing
dog
your dog.
license.
So
Okay.
You
No
just apply
special-
for a commercial license.
No special insurance or anything with, okay.
Have there been any complaints with respect to these dogs?
We did have an incident of 2 of Mr. Costa's dogs roaming prior, which we have handled that situation. Proper documentation was provided, but that was the only current violation.
So is that part of the conditions of approval that he also needs to obtain this commercial license?
Yes, Mike did have that.
And the commercial license just as paperwork.
Yeah, I remember so.
That commercial license also covers any dog on the property is licensed under that commercial license. So you don't have to also pull your own individual license with the town for each individual dog. It covers every animal in that kennel.
This is the first.
Yeah, learning a lot.
I never knew that.
Anyone else on the commission have questions? Anyone from the public in the room have comment?
I have a question. My name is Tim French and I live next to Mario. With a commercial permit, is there a limit to how many animals or dogs you can have? I mean, can you add in 30 dogs if you want, or?
Yeah, you can answer.
There is no limit, but there has to be the proper accommodation for the dogs. So if there's only a specific number of kennels or runs, you can only have that amount of dogs in the kennels or runs.
Okay,
So if he gets a commercial license,
Mhm.
he can have more than 3 dogs
Mhm.
legally.
Legally.
The motion that is, so we kind of have, currently we're limited to 6. So one of the things that I wanted to explain, because it is a little bit different than how things have been done previously, there's sort of increased guidance or confidence that commissions can't just establish timeframes on special permits and say you have to come back in a year or 2 to renew. Based on the understanding that it can take a lot of money and time to establish a permit, and having to come back in 2 years for the commission to arbitrarily potentially deny has created an issue. So number 3, under general conditions, I have tried to structure so that if there is a material change in the operation or circumstance, which I outline what those can be, then they need to obtain a new permit from the commission. So we're establishing that criteria. So if they want to go to a public kennel or boarding facility, if we receive numerous complaints that have been documented, then we're going to say, okay, the operation has changed from what you submitted to us, and we want to look at it again. Because we can't just say, you've got to come back in 2 years and check it. And that was after thinking through the best way to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as what the expectations are. I included an increase in the number of animals 6 months or older, because our zoning regulations define and use the 6-month term. So if he has a litter, it's not like he's
Violation.
all of a sudden immediately. But we want to make sure that what they've submitted to you now is what they continue to operate from, without this idea that it can just continue to grow or require a renewal in 2 years.
And D's a good one too. She'll go out there and check if any complaints, whatever, if that's management practices, nothing's being followed correctly, then it triggers all the flags.
Right. Yeah, so we're not saying that it's going to be subject to her approval because we can't, but if we're receiving ongoing complaints about issues in the neighborhood with dogs being loose or not being vaccinated or whatever, then again, that is a change from what was represented here, and we can then review it.
Okay, is there anybody else in the room who would like to speak to this? Anybody else online who would like to speak to this?
I have one more question. How did this all come about? A couple dogs got loose.
No, he
Oh.
came in on his own.
Oh, really?
Back in,
I was just curious.
2012, Mr. Costa got his own permit to build the kennel,
Okay.
but at that time did not go over the threshold to need a special use permit.
Okay.
So a condition of his zoning permit was to come in when
If
he
he had
was
more
going to go
than
over.
3 dogs.
Yes,
So he's playing by the
Yes.
rules is what he's doing. what he's
Yes.
supposed to do.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Just curious.
Anyone else who wants to speak on this application? Okay. If the commission is satisfied that you have the information you need, does somebody want to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing for application PZ 2022-04 for special use permit for private dog kennel at 18 Griffin Road. Map 19-72-08, zone A1.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Peg, that's unanimous. The hearing is closed. We have a memo from Mike D'Amato, dated April 21st on this, with a potential motion to approve. Would somebody like to proceed with a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve application PZ 2022-04 for a special use permit for private kennel located at 18 Griffin Road, map 19-72-08, zoned in the A1. This approval is granted subject to performance with reference plans and the representations made by the applicant to the commission as may be modified by the commission and their approval. The following conditions and modifications, general conditions 1 through 8 that are listed in the memo from Mike D'Amato, consulting planner, dated April 21st, 2022.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. The motion is approved.
Good luck.
Thank you for coming tonight. It was very helpful to have you explain the rules to us. We all learned something from you.
I'm gonna break the law for so long. No, I don't.
Later, I'll give you his address.
What's your address? My wife's in Ohio.
I'll give you his address in a few minutes.
Well, this
Text
is dirt
it to you
road.
right now.
The only dirt road, oh, not the only dirt road. There's a couple dirt roads.
But the town won't pay, but that's.
But see that, you should be proud of yourself. You taught the old dog a new trick.
I don't have a dog, I wish you did.
I got one you can have.
Okay, our next order,
The one that you-
we have no old business. Under new business, we have an application PZ 2022-5 for 49 South Main Street. It's a site plan review for construction of a mail kiosk and pickup and drop-off area. The applicant is Winwood Partners. Is the applicant present or somebody representing?
Yes, just confirming you guys can hear me offline.
We can. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, Rock Emmond, Associate Civil Engineer with SLR International Corporation out of Cheshire, Connecticut, formerly Mylone McBroom. Here on behalf of the applicant, Figure 8 Properties, located at 49 South Main Street and Regina Drive. We're here to talk about a potential mail kiosk for the apartments. I will share my screen to show what we're talking about. Should be a pretty quick presentation. Let's see. Just let me know when you guys can see my screen.
You got it.
Beautiful. So the apartments are located at 49 South Main Street, which is directly located south of some open space and some farmland as well. There's this is a 25-acre parcel, but specifically they're looking for an amenity or a mail kiosk. So this mail kiosk is primarily for obviously FedEx, as well as Amazon and UPS mail deliveries for those within the apartment complex. We had submitted plans, and on your screen currently is a rendering which was provided by the architect Quisenberry out of Actually, I don't recall where they're on it from. But regardless of that fact. So the mail kiosk is located along Regina Drive, which is the private drive. And we're looking for circulation to wrap around the mail kiosk to allow for the driver's side entrance to be perpendicular or parallel to the actual mail kiosk itself. So that way there are, if you have somebody who needs ADA accessibility, they can immediately get out of their vehicle, go right onto the sidewalk and go into the mail kiosk. Just to talk about the actual site plan, which was submitted. The mail kiosk is about 351 square feet. In this particular submission, there's about 4,600 square feet of impervious coverage that's going to be increased on the site. The site is over 25 acres, so this is really a drop in the bucket. So what we did for stormwater management was isolate this particular area and look at it from a microscopic idealized situation where the water or the stormwater will be picked up and then put into underground detention. The underground detention located right next to the mail kiosk itself. Here, that's going to discharge and go to the existing storm drainage system. We had received some comments from the town engineer, and we had modified the plans as well as the drainage narrative to address his concerns with 2 consecutive 25-year storms. So these are now, the previous plans showed a StormTech SC 740s, and these show now a StormTech MC 3500s, which is basically a larger unit. So it holds more capacity. This way we can have both the 25-year storms in succession be able to be detained and still show that we're either meeting or decreasing the amount of peak flows up to the 25-year storm. In addition to the actual drainage with this, we're providing some landscaping as well as healing in the actual field. I'll show a slide that shows what the existing condition is directly after this, so you can kind of get a feel for what we're really trying to get in the meat and potatoes of this. This is kind of the layout of the mail kiosk. So you'll have the pedestrian walk. You'll walk in, you'll go to your assigned box, you'll pick up your mail and you'll walk out. This is the architecture that they're looking for. It's a typical roof style, and it's open air with a I guess a textured brick that's kind of stone inlaid into the, or I think, if I recall, I believe it's cultured stone wall. So it's kind of adhered to the wall itself to give that kind of premium feel, as well as typical siding and roof materials. This is a photo of the existing condition. You can see that it's kind of a rolling slope as we're going down with grade towards Main Street or North Main. And this is a site rendering of what it's potential. Sorry, did I miss something? Oh, I thought I heard somebody go back up. Okay, apologies. So this is a site rendering of what's really going to be proposed. So you can see that the circulation is a car coming in, parking adjacent to the sidewalk so they can get out, and then coming out. And I will have a secondary perspective so you can get a better feel. So they'll park right here adjacent to the sidewalk, get to their individual mail kiosk or their mail locker, and they'll pick up whatever they're looking to pick up from the mailman. There will be drop lighting within the actual facility themselves, mostly for, I believe there's also going to be a security camera to make sure that there's no people coming and going and kind of cracking into these things.
How many cars can park and pick up their mail simultaneously?
About 3 cars worth and one of the reasons why, if I go back to the site plan, so we're doing a 20-foot wide. So you can have about 3 cars parked along the sidewalk and still allow for a car to go past it.
Thank you.
Yep. And then essentially that's it in a nutshell. We were in receipt of, like I said, the engineer's comments. We believe, and I believe there's a memo that came out today that says we addressed said comments, as well as we were in receipt of the, I believe Ruth Ann's staff memo. And at this time, we have no qualms about any of the conditions that have been set forward. I'm open to any questions.
Okay, first question, do you plan on adding any striping at all in this layout?
So we're looking for just the one-way arrows as well as the stop bar and stop signs. So there's a one-way arrow here, there's a one-way arrow here, and a stop bar. As for parking purposes, if that's what you're leading to, we know we are not looking to have these dedicated as parking areas.
What I was more thinking of, if you go back to your elevation rendering,
Yep.
it looked like that, no, that one. So it looks
This one?
like you're tapering in the center of this for ADA accessibility.
Correct, that is
Should there be
correct.
should there be some hashing there to prevent somebody from parking and blocking that?
Actually, that is a fantastic point. I would argue yes. So I would say that there probably should be a 5x5 painted crosshatch there.
Okay.
So I wholeheartedly think that that would be a good condition of approval.
Also should be a warning detection pad there.
Yeah, the,
ADA pad should be put there.
did you hear that, Rock? The ADA pad? Is that in your details?
You're talking about the
Yeah, there you go.
what's
Okay.
the
It's just
detectable.
Yeah.
Yep. So there we have a typical ADA handicap ramp. So it has the detectable warning strip at the base, and then it flares out.
Okay.
The rendering is just, it's an artist rendering.
Gotcha. Now, currently, how is the mail being delivered? To door, or how?
I believe it's door to door, and they're looking for more centralized location.
So that's gonna require everybody to come down to this kiosk.
That is correct.
Do you anticipate any people walking down there versus stopping in their cars?
No, because there's primarily access throughout. And if it's so far away, you really wouldn't want everybody kind of walking over to this portion.
That's what I was gonna say. Do we need to think about sidewalks if you're gonna have people walking down to the kiosk to get their mail?
I don't think at this time they would encourage any of the people who are utilizing the apartments to walk.
So how many total apartments?
I don't know off the top of my head.
If you only have spaces for 3 cars and everybody has to stop there, you might have a little bit of congestion.
Hmm.
That's why I say, if there's walking capability, some people may walk down and get their mail, but if everybody has to bring a vehicle to go get their mail.
Yeah, no, I understand your point.
Well, not everybody gets their mail at the same time. Some of us.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got too.
Well, there's also a big apartment complex in town that has something like this on Depot Street, I'm not gonna name it. Go on. But they have the same kind of system, and it's, believe it or not, it's not congested at all. We're in there all the time, and, you know, people get mail at different times of the day. Might see 3 or 4 cars the most.
It's not everybody on their way home from work.
No.
Gets it at the same time.
And actually, the UPS guy will drop off there, correct, and everybody else will drop off at one central hub, and then they're not driving all through the complex either anymore. which helps.
Yep.
That's all I thought you guys did a great job with the design, and I haven't seen this much input on a mailbox.
Yeah, me neither. Don't worry.
I've been here for 35 years, and he hadn't seen this much design ever.
I'm not the mailbox.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
No, Dave? Dave and I are good.
Okay. Then do we have a draft motion?
You want to?
There's a word like that.
Choose everything. I don't see where FedEx is dropping it. Outside
that little tiny box. I haven't seen a FedEx box bigger than. What about Peapod? Maybe we should make a spot for Peapod too.
I'm just adding this extra condition. Okay, Rock, so the added condition we're gonna put in, number 15 is ADA hash painting to access ramp will be added to prohibit parking.
Sounds perfect to me.
Okay. Okay, and I'll make a motion to approve application PZ 2022-05 for 49 South Main Street and Regina Way, AKA Linwood Apartments, for the construction of a mail drop-off and pickup kiosk. This approval is granted subject to the performance with the reference plans as may be modified by the commission and its approval and the following conditions and modifications. We have items 1 through 3 under reference plans and conditions 1 through 14 with adding condition 15, ADA hash painting. The access ramp will be added to prohibit parking. And this is all in correspondence with a memo from Ruth Ann Calabrese, our town planner, dated April 21st, 2022.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. It's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the good job.
Have a good one.
Under other business, we have an informal discussion on 8 Mill Street, remedial activities and associated excavation, zoning regulation applicability.
We have folks here from AECom and from Raytheon. New name, Raytheon. They've been working on putting together a remediation plan for the site. And they've gone through wetlands already. And the remediation plan has been approved by Connecticut Deep. They will be doing excavation as part of their remediation and removing material from the site, moving earth around on site. So they've done an assessment against our earth moving and grading section of the zoning regs and wanted to talk to you about that. Are you logged into the meeting? For screen share? Okay. They're gonna. You should be able to.
You can come up here to the podium. Yeah, thanks for dealing with some technical issues. I was gonna be presenting and then had to switch last minute, so there is pulling up a PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Chris Van Arsen with AECom. I'm a wetland ecologist and in our permitting group, I'm joined by Larry Hogan, our licensed environmental professional for the site, as well as Dave Clymer from Raytheon, as Ruth said. So while Larry pulls up the presentation, I'll hand these out. Thanks again for your help on this, Ruth. Ruth mentioned these are, we just, so we started taking a look at the town regulations versus the proposed projects, and I'll hand it over to Larry in just a second, but this table is just a matrix of sort of how the proposed work stacks up versus section 14 of the town's regulations.
So maybe you want to explain first what 8 Mill Street is. Some of
Absolutely,
these guys,
yeah.
built-
Yep.
we've been here a long time, some of these guys don't know what it is.
Absolutely, yeah. You have it up?
It says I'm sure.
Is that for Frank? I'm just trying to buy time while he was pulling stuff up, so. So absolutely. So like you said, so perhaps some of you are familiar with the site, others may not be. But 8 Mill Street, right down the road here. Former Broadbrook Mill site, and so there are site-wide remedial activities proposed at the site. Folks may or may not be familiar with those as well. What brings us in tonight is a kind of a subset or the first phase of the work, which is essentially in the center of the site. So Mill Street's here, Main Street's up here, shopping, businesses here. And when we, PowerPoint is still in progress, but once we get it up and running, there we go. I'll turn it over to Larry in a second. He can kind of talk through some of the details related to the work right in this central area. As well as, I'm sure, touch on sort of the site-wide remedial work. And we can go back and revisit the sort of applicability with the zoning regulations. So again, thanks.
Are we gonna get a copy of this map or no? Do you have a copy of it? We can get a copy.
So this came from,
Yeah.
we
you'll
certainly
see it
can.
here soon.
Yeah, and so this came from our plan, from our inland wetlands application. What was that, 2 months ago? We went through the inland wetlands process and received agent approval. So the site is bounded by Broad Brook. There's a 150-foot upland review area. So first we went to the inland wetlands agency to get their blessing for the work that falls within this upland review area. And so the next step is really just understanding sort of how the work squares with the zoning regulations. And that, again, what brings us here tonight. So this, as well as a couple other materials in this PowerPoint, come from that application itself. So some photos of the site. I think, are those online, Liz?
Right, this way.
All these computers.
Yeah. Try number 3.
So for a little history, the site when it was a mill
Contaminated.
is contaminated.
Super site.
It's
And-
just delisted, actually.
What's that?
He listed as a superfund site.
Yes.
Super fun potential.
So these gentlemen are best equipped to speak to that. I don't want to steal
So
their
it's-
thunder. but-
Then it burned in the 80s.
But the contamination is still in the ground.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. And so the work that's proposed here is, in a nutshell, would be earth removal, so digging down to remove impacted
The
soil.
contaminated soil
Correct, and then backfilling.
with plain fill from somewhere else.
Yeah, correct, yeah. And just to be clear, this only addresses part of the problem right now. We're waiting for determination of how to handle the rest of the buildings on site before we proceed with the rest of the remedial design.
So a lot of these guys don't know, the mill burned, they built condos after. And then
What are
they,
the condos on
the
the
condos
other side
still,
of the river?
they're still up.
Yeah, so.
But they're unoccupied.
That's.
Yeah.
exactly
Well, they
right.
kicked everybody out because
Yeah.
it's all contaminated.
That's right. So here's the site access, former parking area, and these are the buildings that you're referring to, a handful, I mean, you guys know this fast, right, but a handful burned down. And then the majority, yeah. And so these are the remaining ones that were condos.
Early 2000s.
2 decades
Yeah, my
ago.
sister bought
Okay.
it.
That's super fun. Paid for by the government of the state.
State contributes some of the part, probably about half of the remediation money is coming from the state, because most of the contamination across the site was from historic mill operations. This material here is probably more traced back to the Hamilton Sunstream days, the chlorinated solvents that were used on the site. So that's one area that we know that we can attack this year. We just want to start the remediation process while we determine what to do with the rest of the buildings.
So when they cap it, were they gonna put, they were talking at one time, going back maybe 10 years ago, they were put dirt filled and plastic and then more
That
dirt.
that is still the approved remediation plan for the rest of the site, yes. Yeah, is to cap it in place.
So this first phase is
Digging.
taking
Yeah,
out
take out stuff that
the
we're gonna use to
heaviest
cap it,
contaminations coming out and leaving the site.
Yes, correct.
And where's it going? When it leaves?
Goes to a permitted landfill. for
Outside
disposal.
of the state.
Yes, it will be outside the state.
Not somewhere
What was
else in
that?
town.
Sure. We'll have to determine, there are some PCB contaminations here, so it may go to New York City. There's a place up Stanton, New York that handles this stuff.
So I assume you got it here, your truckloads are probably too many, that one.
Well,
It's
so-
well over 100 cubic yards.
Yeah.
So
So the-
That's the big driver. Yeah, exactly.
And then where are you gonna get the fill to replace it?
It'll come from a standard supplier like Wilcox or somebody to provide the clean soil, and we'll test that before it comes back onto the property to make sure it's clean fill coming onto the site.
But if it could come back as quote clean fill, but it could have something else in it, right?
Well,
You tend to get it from
Naturally
you get it from a virgin source, so I mean, it's what you find on your own property, basically, it's native natural soil that you bring back.
10
You
years
bring
from
in
now.
radium,
10 years from now, there might be something in it that we don't know now.
right?
Well, it's better than what's there.
Yeah.
And it's in the wetlands. Upland River. And the positive here is they're not moving it on site like was the original plan. They're taking that
Out of
material and
state.
leaving with it.
Yeah.
So
That's how long is
That's
the
right.
timeframe of the excavation?
It's probably about a 4-week process
Fair enough.
between excavation and restoration.
We had in the slide deck a little bit longer, but not much, you know, it's.
Did you want to
8 to 12 weeks.
touch on those?
Slide
slides?
From like, from site prep, excavation to restoration, the whole thing.
You want to, you have things to present there?
Yeah, we're already talking about.
All
it.
right.
I'd rather ask you questions.
Always
Go right
Yeah,
now.
let you do your presentation.
Well, it's an informal discussion, right? That's what we were hoping for.
Good for you guys, because we're closing out a couple of pits this year, less truck traffic.
All right, if you want to step through, we can, you know, we have a few things already hit up on.
Truck traffic on state
That's just the
roads.
same, everything. So, you know, this is, again, the areas of, we're addressing inside that blue area are PCSA, standing for potential contaminant source area. And they were numbered back in the day. The site's been thoroughly investigated. There's been a remedial action plan that was prepared, that was approved by DEEP and actually EPA. And then AECOM was hired, we did an optimization, how we evaluated what they're doing, came up with some new ideas, submitted that to DEP, and they issued a concurrence with that. So this is part of that approach. And you can actually go to the next slide. So there's just a little bit more about the PCSA's. 4 was a former 100,000 gallon fuel oil tank with its containment berm. That's the part that's in that review area. PCA 6 is a smaller area. That we are putting in the mix here. It was a former coal gasification plant, and there's another one, 7 of them, right kind of in the same area that was historical gasoline tank supposedly. And then 8 was the electroplating operation that Dave mentioned that, you know, would be associated with organic compounds and some metals in that area. So those are the things that were the sources of the contamination that we're going after in these bags. So, next slide. And so this is a little bit more of the picture that they have up there. So I'll cover a little bit more detail. The red are kind of the hot spots, as we call them. The individual areas where we have compounds that are above the remediation standards. And so our goal is to get that out. Some of the concentrations there exceed the state's mobility criteria. So it's a number that you have to clean up to protect underlying groundwater from precipitation going through the soil. So that's what we're doing. And it's generally in those areas that are red right there. And you got 6 and 7. Go back. Sorry. Yeah. So 4, you see the square. That was kind of the containment berm for the old ASD. The other 2 are kind of blobby shaped because there's contamination in the area. 8 is the one on the lower right, and that was building 26. That's where the electroplating was. And then 6 and 8 were the old, they had a little gasification plant that was used for light. They used to make gas to light the mill. Way back. And then there's a gasoline tank up in there. So that's why those are blobby. That's more defined by what they found versus the shape of the square containment of the old. In that case, it was the AST. It had like a basin around it. So it's square basin. So yeah, it was a spill containment there. Next one. So you know, some of the things we talked about there is volatile organic compounds that are associated with solvents.
and some metals, some plating in there. Dave mentioned we found in our work leading up to this, we found that there were some PCBs in there, so they're being dealt with as well. And I mentioned before, we're cleaning up the kind of as a remediation standard regulation. That's the statewide reg that establishes cleanup standards. And the standards are in two categories. There's direct exposure for human health, and then there's mobility I mentioned. And so here, we're mainly going after the PMC. The PCBs do exceed a direct exposure criteria. And so they're co-located, as we say, they're in the same place. So we're gonna deal with them at the same time. And PCA 6, I mentioned the gasoline tank. There's petroleum hydrocarbons. We saw some pre-phase gas. There might have been gasoline, there's oil, floating oil in the water table. So we're going after that. That's in the neck of the woods where that historical gasoline tank was. So that's kind of just a nutshell what we're doing, what we're going after. Next one. And so I mentioned our objectives. We're cleaning up to the Connecticut remediation standards. So we've got the PMC, mobility, direct exposure criteria, and the Elm Apple. We're going to excavate and dispose offsite of licensed facility, as we already mentioned. So that just some of the things that what we need to do for the mobility, we need to go down to the water table, which is kind of one of the, we'll get back to the triggers and things that are in your regulations. It's our goal. We're going to go down and it's a GA area. GA is for water protection. So in that instance, you want to go down to the seasonal low water table. We're going to water table, maybe a little bit into it, to try to get out, what we can from the soil that might impact underlying groundwater. And then again, the duration, about 8 to 12 weeks, start to finish is our expectation for it. We want to get after it in a decent weather and get it buttoned up before it gets cold.
Any groundwater treatment involved with this?
There will be, yeah.
So if we have to dewater,
then we'll pump it up in the frac tanks and we'll do one of two things. We'll either, depending on the volume, we might send it to a licensed facility on the manifest, will be treated in a permitted facility. Or we may treat it with a system would be typically a combination of rainwater activated carbon, and for metals we have a resin to take those out. And that will be the discharge to POTW if it's available to do, or the surface water that requires a separate discharge permit. It does. And if we do that, it will definitely be the permit. The discharge will be monitored. State has strict requirements for that. We follow.
Are there a lot of wells in that area? That's the first thing people are gonna say when you start digging.
Drinking water wells? Or no. We monitor
all
some
cities.
wells. I mean,
So that's good.
we monitor some properties nearby, and but they're not that close.
Okay.
Only wells are monitored wells.
where's the current water table sitting?
It varies. It's depending on the season. In some places like 7, down to 10, 12 feet. So in that general range. It's mostly flat where we're digging, but it gets a little bit sloping down as you get over toward the.
So you're not dewatering to a point of creating a corner depression.
Just to keep it dry where we dig it. We're not going to be over pumping, just as much as we need to pump as it.
Is this for protection?
Part- Part of it is. Part of it is.
The other piece of the property.
It almost falls along the line. It's close to the line. You can get up in the review area. So PCSA 4 again, that side is in that. So we'll be providing.
And Jessica is aware that she's supportive of the remediation, obviously.
Right, definitely.
So,
Been a long time coming.
yeah.
What are your dig depths, you think, roughly?
10 to 12.
10 to 12, that's it.
Yeah, and we're gonna lay it, but we're gonna slope it, we have room. And and we'll be, we'll segregate whatsoever we can.
There's the slide. I think there may be a figure that.
Yeah,
Next one.
so this is the general layout. It's a little bit more, this is actually from our draft design drawing set, so it's similar to those red boxes I showed you. But in this case, we turned it sideways, that's, the other ones have north up, but the design drawings fit better this way, so they're 90. So north is to the right. So this is the general footprint of the hotspots with their, we call them hotspots. So this is the surface footprint with the layback kind of thing. And that shows some of our lay down areas and stockpile areas. We'll stockpile just for a minimum amount of time that it takes. And if we can live load, we will with trucks. But if you have to stockpile, state has a a permit for contaminated soil and sediment stockpiling with, it's actually the general permit. It's currently expired, but we follow it. You know, we follow, we'll cover it, we'll have it on plastic, manage the stockpiles.
Erosion control.
Yeah.
It's also did the live load, obviously.
That, we prefer that, but if we do have to stockpile, it'll be limited to that time.
That was the whole initiation of this, was doing pre-characterization work so that we could get pre-approval from the disposal facilities so we can live load and just get it offsite as quickly as possible.
I think it's worth the increased truck traffic to get it done and get it over with.
Does it require any kind of state inspection before you start backfilling it again? or-
No, we take samples at the limits of the excavation and approve what we have left.
So there's no delay that could be incurred because of waiting on inspections.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Sure.
AECom would hire a laboratory to submit the samples to. They do the.
We are working closely with Community Deep. We have they're technically actually the lead for this one. Typically, it's a remediation is less than final professional, just me. I would be the OP of record, but because of the state's involvement in the past with some of the funding and such, they're technically the lead, but we're in close communication. They've approved the plan, and we'll be show them where we're at and give them a schedule, and they'll be on board with what we're doing. They don't need to inspect, but they'll have every opportunity to if they want to.
So your plan is to live load. What is your plan if you can't live load?
We'll stockpile, but
How much will you stockpile? Are you anticipating digging it all out, stockpiling it, letting it dry, and then hauling it up?
No,
Because it's a lot of material.
yeah, there'll be, to the extent possible, we'll pull it up, let it drain back in the hole, be dewatering it. Live on the trucks, probably lying a little bit to soak up some of the excess fluids.
And the majority of the soil is above the water table, so it's gonna be ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's under a big rain, after a big rainstorm or something, but.
Been seasonally wet and it's not as dry as you think there. But I'm not gonna tell you guys how to do your job, but I'm just saying, all right, I understand, I get it. I know where you're coming from. I know how your method and how you want to think, but if you can't live load, that's going to stretch the project out. If you can't excavate and let it de-water some, how much are you going to excavate and de-water, and how much area are you gonna?
Depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
Well, what's their plan? That's what I'm saying. What's their plan is, I'm just.
Joe, you should do this for a living before.
Joe works for the town. So Joe knows how wet it is, and Joe's gonna tell you that you're gonna be able to live load maybe the first 3 feet.
That kind of.
Yeah, so, but it's not a very big area considering especially if you're going 8 to 10 feet.
Yeah,
Understood.
I think the total volume that we're anticipating is 3,500.
3,500.
37, I believe that.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, we won't have room for all that, so.
Yeah.
We can find that by our footprint. Our footprint shown in the drawings here, we'd stockpile only what fits in what we've already set aside and put some of the erosion control around.
So you're not anticipating putting bigger areas to stockpile?
No.
So this is it, and when this is full, until you can move it out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we go out there and the water table is very high and the soil is saturated, we may consider some dewatering or something, but yeah, the thought is to live load as much as possible.
Well, I think if you get live load the first 4 to 5 feet, then I think that's when you have a problem. And I'm just more curious on how you're doing it. I'm not, there's a million ways you can do it. I get it. But
yeah.
So the first question we're gonna get from the town people when we start running trucks, is you're gonna have, I'm sure you're gonna hire a big company to come in and just haul, or multiple companies, all day long.
Hours of operation.
First off, Jim,
Yeah.
they're gonna have a problem with the 191 bridge. You're not gonna be able to use it. Because it's limited to 10-ton only.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to go up and around. So you're either gonna have to go out from Broadbrook down 140. And that's probably the route we're gonna recommend they go rather than down Rye Street and out in South Windsor
Yeah.
for your own peace of mind.
We wouldn't want to have the trucks coming down this way past the elementary school. and stuff.
Yeah, because that's the only way out.
Well, depends where they're hauling it to though.
So that bridge is currently not going to be repaired for another year and a half by the state.
Yeah, I envision probably going up towards Mass Pike and then out towards New York State that way, so.
You go out 140 back to 91 and then go
Yeah.
north.
Yeah.
So that keeps it pretty clean and
That's Harry's.
no, other way.
Oh, wait.
Go past Kevin's.
Yeah.
So what's your planned hours of operation?
Just daylight hours, probably 7 to 5, something like that. I'm not gonna do anything after hours.
No weekends.
No. Do not anticipate any weekend work. I gotta pay more.
What's your restoration plan? You're not putting the driveway back in, are you?
If you go to
We
the
are,
next-
yeah.
Next slide there.
Yeah, we're not gonna restore all the utilities, most likely, probably just the storm sewers. Everything else will be just cut and tap, most likely. We're
The
still.
water line? Doesn't
That
that run
road-
right down the road?
It does, yeah. So, that's still a detail to be ironed out. And that will be part of the final design that we submit to the state.
Are there still any live hybrids on site?
We're hoping that we have a decision on buildings before then. If not, then we'll restore them afterwards.
Make a nice park, Joe.
It's all
Guys, you're still here?
You work there.
Ray worked it out.
Yeah.
You put the mill in, probably.
Me and Joe saw it burn in '86. We watched it.
I was funny when you said it.
It was a big fire.
So what are the concerns?
Yeah, so if you
Trucking
go-
is a concern.
And if you go to the next slide, please, so like you said, trucking, I think this discussion started when we reached out to Ruth, sort of after the inland wetlands or during the inland wetlands piece. And just kind of had some questions as we were going through the regulations. And again, that's what that table is, right? But a handful of the regs, and I don't know, I might be mistaken here, but it seemed like they're kind of written, at least some of them were specific sort of for sand and gravel operations. And so when we start digging in, it's like, well, this remedial work's not necessarily compatible with that. And so.
That's exactly what I originally pursued.
Okay, yeah, so then we're just trying to square, how do we get compliance with planning and zoning commission, regulations? And essentially, I think at the end of the day, the question is like, what does the commission want to see, right, as next steps here from us? But the soil stockpiling one, I think the very last slide in this deck has the exact language as well as these packets, but the soil stockpiling, it has some language in there, don't remove topsoil. The intent here is to take soil away, the depth to water table, don't encroach upon the water table. Again, like Larry said, we have to, right? So sort of how does that all square? And then, depending on what's needed for the application, I mean, that's, and, also to address your concerns and the town's concerns, right? Like traffic, hours of operation, all that, we just wanted to start the discussion and sort of see how that.
Well,
I'm just saying, so, do we have the ability to create a remediation permit?
I think deep councils and everything.
Well, that was my question. Would the commission want to issue a special use permit for this remediation or defer to the state?
Keep it in-house.
I would think the traffic.
We want it
The
cleaned
state
up.
isn't gonna
Yeah,
care
I
about
think,
it, the traffic
you know,
is.
We obviously don't want to add anything that's going to delay this.
Lose the money or whatever, or, it's been 25, 30 years trying to get this
But
far.
I mean, we could kind of take and tailor down
It's to
the
their
language
advantage.
that goes for excavation of pits and just pulling the things that we want to, include to make sure that, the
So it would
traffic,
be,
that-
like you were saying.
any
subset.
any site security that we need to do when you have the open pit, that nobody can fall into it, and that kind of stuff.
I think this is similar to some of the stuff that we dealt with the solar project, where there's a body of higher authority which issues a plan, and they have to follow that plan. You'd have to rewrite the regs, so you're talking 60 to 90 days.
Or
You
you
can't,
have to waive certain.
Which we
things.
can't do.
You can't do that.
so I don't, other than perhaps hours of operation, which I think they could probably provide in some type of a narrative or something, and you've given them that guidance, I would defer, as Ruth said, to the, and let them
The
review.
traffic and which way they go with the traffic.
Well, they don't have many options now because the bridge is out.
There's only one option in and out of town, and you're not really in a residential area where you're working. A Saturday day, to me, wouldn't be a big deal. I mean, we run construction jobs on Saturdays and nobody complains. You're talking about time. If last year's, if this year's anything like last year, you're gonna need a giant umbrella over the whole site. Okay, so you might as well not even, I mean, and to me, and I've only been involved with this through the town engineer for the last 8 years. It appears to me that it might be growing a little. Like, I know nobody's gonna, but it just appears to me that if I look back at some of this old stuff we have, this, you know, and so it's important we take care of it. So the bottleneck, this project is shameful on our part. Now, I understand we have to follow rules and everything, and rules are in place to protect us, but they're ultimately responsible anyways. Let's get it out. But we have to follow our rules. We just can't say, yeah, go ahead. You know, I get it. But I think we should do anything that we can, because it's a disservice to the community for what this is now and how many years it's been like this. So we have to follow Deep's guidelines, then.
Even though you want to keep it in-house.
Well, I just saying when you get less is more, the more we involve, the more difficult it slows the whole freight train down, right?
Tradition. That's what happens.
I mean, you just want to avoid having like 25 trucks in queue lining up. That's kind of,
It's, the property's big enough where you can put 35 in there and they could set this whole job site up where the trucks are coming in. They're not gonna load that fast. This
Other
isn't-
That's gonna be the limiting factor,
If you-
because
you're
it's
gonna
a bunch of
removing
discrete
a
excavations,
fuel
so it's gonna be.
underground storage tank and you find
10 to
contamination,
15
you
trucks a
remediate
day,
it right
probably.
away. You don't need
Yeah.
any additional special permits or anything
How
like
many
that.
yards can you
You
load
find
in
it,
an
you take
hour?
care
How
of it.
big of an
Same
excavator?
thing,
How many
tanker truck
excavators
flips
do you
over on the
need?
side of the road. They go and they immediately
This is-
remediate it, so
you
it doesn't
can't go
require
by
any
job.
extra
Yeah,
special
700
steps.
excavators.
So is there a way that we can kind of look at this as,
Not an excavation, but
it's a remediation, it's
Yeah.
not, yeah, it doesn't,
It
it
ends
doesn't
up
fall
being
under any of the
We
excavation
had the
requirements.
conversation of the no net change in elevation at the end of the day.
It's a remediation, it's not a site plan modification, it's not an excavation, they're restoring it back to what it should be.
Also, remediation is being done at least in part on behalf of Deep.
Right,
There's
Right.
certain.
Yeah.
and they're regulating, right?
So I
Yeah,
think,
partially funding and they're
yeah,
approving, so.
like the siding council, you know.
I think that the intent, and speak for Ruth, and putting this as an informal was for you to find that
Well, we
This-
wanted to
isn't.
be, I wanted to make sure everybody knew what was going on.
It's about time. Like, go ahead tomorrow.
Well, if they work weekends, I'll run the excavator. You can drive the truck. okay? But I understand what you guys are saying, but I don't think you're gonna be able to pull more than 15 or 20 loads out a day,
That's what they think.
Yeah.
you know, right? Yeah,
That's our suspicion.
so that's,
That's not heavy truck traffic.
We do that now.
but think about it, it is probably less now that Charbonneau's isn't running anymore, going through Broadbrook.
Yep.
And Hurry's not doing all that much.
No, Herbie goes the other way.
Oh.
And the upside here too is the bridge being out, it doesn't push them through down Mahoney and then down
Resident.
Wells. It pushes them right out on state roads. It's all state, right to the highway.
191, 140.
We go by my house.
Think you have the guidance you're looking for?
Think so.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Instructions for taking care of my creation.
Only tuna fish.
That's right.
We have a CEO report.
You guys have a potential to start, or this construction season, that's where you want to go, is right?
So we probably still have a couple of months before we can get into the field. We have to get EPA approval of the PCB plan that we're putting together. So yeah, probably July, August.
More people involved.
Yeah, we'll close it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you guys out there tonight, that you were up, they were
Yeah,
up
they're
there.
doing additional sampling, so yeah, get the EPA approval. So we're working on it.
Well, good luck.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Good job. Let
us know if you need anything.
All right.
Over here, the dirt all night. The dirt.
Where hours are you want to be?
So I like there are always a very interesting
It's like, look at that.
high interest amongst a lot of P&Z commissions to see the CEO.
My father loved this building.
It's like the police blotter.
So,
You're just looking for your address.
Nope.
work in progress. Kind of trimmed it down. And so looking for feedback on the format, if there's enough information, if there's more information. The way Danielle set this up, at the very back, some new complaints. And these were new complaints that came in that got closed.
Oh.
All right, so. She has a way. Yeah, so it's like how trim this, streamline the report itself. You have questions, I do that like the notes version.
So when they say ongoing, and it says blight, what does that mean?
So we're categorizing, there are some things that are just difficult to manage through the zoning regulations. And we currently have a draft blight ordinance under construction. And it's on a second version. Comments due back on Monday. And then we'll be going to the Board of Selectmen with it. And from there, the town attorneys.
Then we send out letter of fees and all that kind of,
Yep, it'll be set up where it's much more
just for example, like.
structured and prescriptive, and this is blight, and therefore, you know.
How do you define blight versus messy?
I think
It's like,
a
I
column of
hate to
actions.
like harass people.
if
just
we had a
because-
column with actions taken, it would
Yeah.
help a lot of our,
Okay,
you know, like you have ongoing cars and blights, and then what's the, you know,
right, where are we? Like the
Letter.
letter
you know,
before you
yeah.
sent out, site
Well, I
visit
think-
made, yep.
Wouldn't that show here? Because some of them say notice of violation, notice of reinvestigation. So I think ongoing may just mean she's researching or.
So like the 124 Wells, that's a house that's been
I don't
like that for 3-4 years now. It's, nobody lives there, it's just, it's Crockett's house.
24.
Yeah, and it's under blight. and that's
Yeah,
why.
so that's, yeah,
That's
so,
something that when we get the new tool for the
Yeah.
toolbox, we'll be going after it. Yeah,
So
she's
I'll-
excited about getting that passed. She's like, "Oh, no."
so then it's like, that's been like that forever.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so
That'll work.
So, and I know that previous reports that I had done, I was putting in, you know.
Yeah.
Correspondence back and forth, and I was trying to put it in order, like the last thing that happened was this. 3 weeks after the previous item. So, we can do that, we can add that. Here's the-
well, I mean,
The last piece of correspondence.
for me, it would be helpful.
Yeah, it gives it context. I know what you're saying. She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did that chicken poultry processing out of the residential area. That was next, yeah, I went to vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, it took this.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
That would be a scary thought.
Really?
Yeah.
Any more on the zoning enforcement officer report? Okay. Under correspondence, we have a letter from the assistant town planner in Enfield, indicating there'll be a hearing on Thursday, April 28th for Burlington Coat Factory for a zone change from business general to industrial. Are you still sharing your screen? Can you pull up the Burlington Coat Factory area?
That parcel, Burlington Coat Factory actually straddles the town line.
I think this is not correct.
Yeah.
Not within
Ruth.
500 feet of East Long.
Yeah, it says East Long Meadow is just a clerical error from Enfield. Yeah, it says, since located within 500 feet of the municipality boundary, Enfield and East Long Meadow,
I think they meant
the town
Windsor.
planner,
Yeah.
the town planning and zoning department would like to provide the town of East Windsor Planning Commission.
Well,
I
we all use old letters.
know.
Is that Lori?
You copy.
Yeah, that's
Lori.
Lori. Lori's in charge of it.
Yes, we kind of- yeah, that's how we end up with funky word.
But, okay, I guess I'll hold my questions till the
If
end.
they make half the store industrial and East Windsor has it,
It is M1 over there.
it is in East Windsor already.
Mhm. Yeah, they're trying to match the zoning. The intention, they'll be coming before us with a site plan for storage. They're gonna convert the building into a climate controlled storage.
So it's gonna be all interior storage. We're not gonna be driving down 91 and see rows of boats and trailers and campers and.
It's my understanding it's all indoors.
Well, they start indoor, then they go
You know,
outdoor.
it's-
The cars, that's what they.
And but that's
it's M1.
within their legal right, and we have no.
They'll be coming, yep, they'll be coming with a site plan application. So you can see where the town line is there, right? through the
So-
facility.
There's the Burlington Coat Factory building, and then there's the other abutting building that shares the parking lot,
I think it's
the whole thing.
I think it's the whole.
So more of it's in these ones are out, obviously.
Yeah, I think those two buildings are connected. I don't
Yes,
think
They are, yeah.
Oh, they used to be separate stores long ago.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time there buying stuff
Oh,
20 years ago.
Toys R Us spent a lot of my money. So, yeah. so yeah, another site plan.
But it'll be, so they're proposing interior, but
Yeah.
chances are it'll be exterior storage also.
And the two properties on Route 5, directly on Route 5, are those houses or?
It's a dentist.
That's no sales
building.
Oh, and what's the
Yeah.
one down below Prospect Hill there, south?
That's a drive down in there.
That's
That's
not a
why it was
house.
down in.
That's a
Oh.
home.
So,
Interesting.
So what's the tax implications here? That's not. If all of a sudden 6, 8 months out of the year, there's boats and trailers on our problem.
you know,
I'm just, I mean, we're losing revenue obviously to Enfield.
they're gonna do the whole site. They'll become for us.
Us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I would imagine we get a prorated portion of the property tax.
yeah,
But when
So
you
Helen taxes
store-
our half and
When
then,
you
Yeah.
store stuff in a storage shed, you pay property tax on your boxes of crap.
but
no, I
it-
think he means like a boat or an RV.
Yeah,
When
but
it's
we're also-
registered.
But you're-
in their letter, they're saying they store for, what is it? Big chain stores.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like a mini warehouse distribution.
Right, so it's a distribution center more than a storage center.
Hmm.
Which doesn't matter anyways, because it's M1, so we still don't care.
I don't want to get here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just
It's like
wondering, I
lease
mean,
space.
taxes. M1's M1, you can,
Uh-oh.
this is why I brought my laptop.
Say the boss will come here and check it
I
out.
put plugs in the table. for you.
Give me a check.
No,
Never
once it
you
dies,
put it.
that's it. You gotta adjourn the meeting.
No, we got wetlands, or we got water protection.
Quick,
Yeah, let's
okay,
move on.
really quick, I promise. I just
We gotta close
scribbled
the
down
meeting.
something.
No
We have to close this
business
meeting first?
meeting, no
This is my
executive
laptop. You guys
session.
don't have to.
Is there a motion to adjourn planning and zoning?
Okay. Motion adjourned.
I make a motion to adjourn, I guess.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, planning, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next
Planning and zoning is adjourned.
Next time.
Now we have to take up for protection. So we'll call to order the Tuesday, April 26th meeting of the Aquifer Protection Agency. I guess it's a special meeting being held at, oh, okay. The regular meeting. Town hall and on Zoom, but we have a quorum with all the members present. We have minutes from our January 25th meeting. Are there any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the January 25th meeting?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of the Aquifer Protection Agency meeting held on January 25th, 2022 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay. Staff report.
Very quickly, since you last met, we've heard back from a couple of the folks we reached out to for registration. One of them being Mr. Dearborn with regard to 75 Fry Street and 95 Fry Street. That's a multi-tenant facility in a rear lot that has some warehousing, some hydraulic lift repair and engine repair facilities. He has submitted his registration application on April 8th. I went out to the site with Jessica DeMar, the woman from Connecticut Water Company that spoke to the group. We went out and did a site visit with Steve and Kim Dearborn and Roland, who runs the hydraulic lift. Give us a tour of his location. And so we're putting together with them a materials management plan. And we're going to have a follow-up visit with Connecticut DEP. Kim Zappa. Just to go over next steps for that. We heard back from Herb Golden Trucking with regard to 33 Apothecary Hall Road. They went through the registration checklist and determined that they didn't have any of the activities listed on there and sent a letter to that effect. I would like to double check with the state to see that that's sufficient or if they need to sign the certification form in order to get, well, if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply, but it wouldn't be registered if they were incorrect. And the registration is equivalent to a grandfathering of the use. The one and the third registration potential is Nutrient Ag Solutions. I have not heard back from them. I sent out 2 notices. And so that's an issue. And keep pushing to get engaged.
Is there a parent to that? That's
I've
not in
reached
East
out to them,
Windsor?
yeah.
Because I would think,
Ask Jay for his assistance.
Okay.
Bill signed.
Yeah,
Bill signed.
Jay can give it to Bill.
Okay.
Bill runs the place.
Bill's the vice chair of the Board of Finance.
Oh, okay.
Sitting right there.
Probably right in there. If that Board of Finance is in there.
Yeah, and he's in charge of that.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Get
You know,
progress
hey,
there.
buddy.
And so,
Or just go buy some flowers.
Yep.
On Symes Farm and say, hey, here,
so in this,
you can serve.
this effort again is to grandfather. So we did bring up the 8 Mill Street property and the state. But they're not currently active, so you're not really grandfathering in. And then,
Would you want a grandfather?
no, but it was just, where are the places that we see as, you know, black eyes, as we're looking at our aquifer area. And that was raised as one. And of course, Jessica wants to know what's going on with the remediation, but she's not going to stand in the way of that remediation. So that's where things stand. That's what I did. Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Did you have anything on meeting dates? We
No, this
resolved
is,
that.
this is,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a quick like text.
Okay.
Oh my God, don't forget to do that while on vacation.
Okay.
Uh,
And then we can, if somebody would like, make a motion to adjourn the Aquifer Protection Agency meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the aquifer meeting. Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
That was almost as fast as building committee.
I tried, it would have only been 4.
We've done it.